Hello Summoners, Course here bringing you updated tutorials for Season 3. This week I'll be going over one of my more popular champion tutorials, Darius, the Hand of Noxus. So let's get started. Running runes you can have a handful of different builds, such as early game attack damage, mid to late game armor pen, or more tankier build. For starting out with you just running a mid to late game armor pen, in case you don't get snowballed early game, you have a better chance of making a comeback late game. The runes to choose for this are flat armor pen marks and quints, flat armor seals, flat magic resist, or cooldown reduction glyphs for more DPS. You may ask why I use all armor pen and not some additional attack damage for early game poke and farm is because Season 3 armor pen has changed and armor pen percentage is now calculated before flat armor penetration. It apprehends passive to calculate the enemy's armor and then your 19 flat armor pen after, leading to a better poke level 2 and up. Now for Masteries, a safe route would be to go 14-16-0. This will give you the more survivability in lane and out of lane, with extra armor pen and cooldowns for more overall DPS. Grabbing points in Butcher and Brute Force will also allow you to last hit better. If you don't feel comfortable going this route, you're more than welcome to make changes to any and all to fit your playstyle. Time to talk about Darius as a champion. Darius is a heavy bruiser able to deal massive and quick bursts of damage, and then finish low opponents off repeatedly. This makes you a significant threat in the teamfights that draw out, and then you can move to one champion to the next, finishing them off. Some faults of Darius is that he can take huge harass from range carries that can kite, such as Caitlyn, Ashe, and Graves. Over snowballing Darius can be very bad for your team. Having one person accumulate most of the gold from kills can, and most likely will, lean the game toward the enemy favor. Lastly, with no escape abilities, Darius can be prone to ganks, if no wards are present, and you are over pushing. Time to go over Darius' abilities, starting off with his passive, Hemorrhage. Every time Darius attacks or uses an ability on an enemy, it causes them to bleed. This effect stacks up to 5 times and can be accompanied by his ultimate, Noxian Guillotine, to do the most damage possible. Moving on to Decimate, Darius swings his axe in a circle dealing 70, 105, 140, 175, and 210, with 0.7 physical damage to all nearby enemies in a circle. Champions in the outer half of the ability that are struck take an additional 50% damage. This move will be your main harass and will allow you to deal huge damage at early levels. Just remember the damage comes from the outer half of the strike, so using it up close and personal will deal less damage and it can be a determining factor of you losing or winning a fight. So some helpful tips to maximize damage is to use Apprehend, then Crippling Strike, and then either wait for your opponents to start backing off, or if they don't, start kiting into the outer range of Decimate. Also, if your opponent comes up to take caster minions for farm, punish them for it, by using Decimate at the outer range. Landing this multiple times on your foe will make them wary of you, and when this happens, they will zone themselves or wait to farm on tower. Use this to your advantage as well, and do not push the lane, last hit, and bide your time while watching for ganks. Now going over to Crippling Strike, Darius empowers his next basic attack to deal an additional 120, 140, 160, 180 to 200% of his attack power. It slows the target movement speed and attack speed by 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40% for 2 seconds. Also, Crippling Strike has a base cooldown is reduced by 1 second for every stack of Hemorrhage on the target. Using Crippling Strike on a carry or in a 1v1 fight will greatly help in crippling your opponent and give you a bigger fighting chance. Hopping on over to Apprehend, Apprehend's passive grants 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25% armor penetration per level, and upon activation he will pull all enemies in front of him. A well-timed and placed Apprehend can initiate a team fight, especially if done over a wall. Apprehend will greatly increase your damage in mid to late game, and as well as give you a hefty advantage over the other characters who would otherwise have to build items to get penetration. Lastly, Noxian Guillotine. Darius sleeps the target champion dealing 160, 250, 340, plus 0.75 physical damage and true damage, and for each stack of Hemorrhage on the target, Noxian Guillotine deals an additional 20% damage, and if you kill the champion with Noxian Guillotine, the cooldown will be refreshed. Knowing when to use Noxian Guillotine will be crucial in having it refreshed in or after a fight. Remember to look at how many Hemorrhage counters are on the target before you cast the ability. Now we're going to a core build for Darius. For the core build I suggest Ninja Tabby or Mercury Treads, depending on how much CC, magic, or attack damage is on the other team, and then building them to tier 3 for what the situation suggests. For your first base item I suggest building it into a Frozen Mallet if you need the survivability first, or a Black Cleaver if you're snowballed a bit. Next is a Banshee's Veil and an Atma's Impaler. Sneaking a Maul Malmortius in there against a heavier AP team could be good as well. Altogether, this is a well-rounded build, good for most cases. If you're looking for something against AD heavy teams, I suggest core items of Frozen Mallet and Frozen Heart and an Atma's. If you are against an AP heavy team, I would suggest core items of Frozen Mallet, Banshee's Veil, Maul Malmortius, then an Atma's Impaler with a Mercurial Scimitar if needed. Remember, after or even in between core items, you start building against the enemy team. No matter how good a build is, it's useless without item order. For starting items to help you with laning phase, grabbing boots and 3 health pots first will give you the ability to get in and out with Decimate quickly to harass your opponent and then back off, and will also give you the sustainability. Next, finish your boots accordingly to the lane and the enemy team, refill your potions, and buy a ward. If you want or can, you can start building into a Philosopher's Stone. Next, build into a Frozen Mallet by buying a Phage. Again, restocking on potions and wards. From here, build into the Frozen Mallet and then to the enemy team accordingly. Lastly, it's time to talk about laning phase and how to make presence in lane, and team fighting. Having started boots and 3 pots as an assumption, you will be allowing yourself easy harass against your opponent when he tries to be too aggressive with their farming. Harassing someone trying to take caster minions is always a good way to put free damage in. If they don't do this, however, you are successfully zoning them from farm. To be able to do this continuously in lane, try to keep your minion wave right out of your turret's reach and last hit only, using Decimate only to harass your opponent who decides to get too close. This will leave him open to ganks and lose farm he could have potentially had otherwise. Now, minion wave control and lasting isn't everyone's strong suit and isn't the easiest thing to master. Practice when you can and it will become like second nature. For team fighting, this is something that Darius excels at, especially with allies that have hard CC. Remember to decimate as many enemies as the situation lets, and as many times in a teamfight as possible. This will allow you to put hemorrhage stacks on as many people as possible for later use. Remember, all of Darius' abilities put hemorrhage stacks on enemies. When you see someone who is not a tank, low enough or hard CC, go into a full combo and as much damage as possible on the single target, and finish them with Noxie Guillotine. This is also easily done catching an enemy with Apprehend who is out of position. Doing this on a high priority target such as carries is a must when at all possible. I want to thank you guys for watching and I hope you learned something from this guide. I also want to let you all know that content will be coming out every week to week and a half again since Season 3 is finally here. If you guys have any ideas for future videos and or guides, leave a comment down below. I also want to thank you guys for the support you have given me and especially for the feedback. If you're new here and want to see more videos or upcoming guides, hit that subscribe button up above. And again, this is Core the Thought, and I'll see you guys next time.